What's up? It's Alec Glover. Today we're making a video about renting out one of our 5090 servers on Fast AI. I think we're going to be able to get about $1,500 to $2,000 a month from renting the server online, and I'll show you exactly how we're going to do that. So what you're looking at here is an application called Metal as a Service. And in our last video, we actually physically built an 8x 5090 server, and after we did that, what we did was we racked it up and basically put it into this Metal as a Service management system that we use that allows us to control the bare metal operating system on all of the hosts we have in the facility. So what we've done is essentially installed Ubuntu 22 directly onto the bare metal host, and what Metal as a Service does is keeps track of all of the details about the server, as well as gives us sort of a unified control plane to manage everything in the data center. So you can see here, we'd be able to release this server and redeploy a new operating system if we had a new customer or somebody else that needed to use the server. So this tool is very, very handy at scale, obviously, and I think it keeps everything fairly organized where we can see exactly what's in each of the hosts that we're using. So I think I'll make a video probably more in depth about Metal as a Service and how to deploy it and what you can do with it. But at a very high level, this is the 5090 server that we built in the last video, and it's fully deployed with a public IP directly assigned to one of the interfaces. So it's fully set up for us to go to a service like Fast AI, configure the server and start renting it out. So in terms of what our expectations are for putting a server like this on Fast, is you can actually look at a lot of fairly public data. So Fast, I think, maintains this analytics site that just pretty quickly tells you, okay, how many 5090s are actually on the platform, how many are rented, how many are not rented, and then what are the different price points that you're seeing. So you can see here in the 90th percentile, people are getting 55 cents an hour for their 5090s, which is really, really good, obviously. But just at the median, there's 37 cents an hour. I think that we should do our math based on the median, but keep in mind, we have a server with sort of the highest possible spec. We've got a full PCIe Gen 5 to each of the cards. We have the largest processors available for this generation. And 768 gigs of memory with two very, very large scratch drives is it fits the bill for pretty much anything that anyone would want to do with it. I think it's going to come down to, over time, we'll build up a reliability score that'll allow us to sort of participate in this 90th percentile market here. So just doing the math on the 37 cents an hour here, or 36 cents if you're pessimistic, you can expect sort of north of $2,000 a month, give or take, depending on how often the server's occupied. A good way to gauge how often the server is going to be occupied is to actually look at, how many verified 5090s are rented versus how many total 5090s are there. So if we do, what would it be, like 1,000 over 1,400, I think that the blended number that I came up with is we should expect about 26 cents an hour. And I think this is fair to say for the first month is, we'll likely average about that until we can prove that we have a very, very reliable facility. And people have had good experiences renting our server. That's when you sort of get those higher utilization rates. So all in at 26 cents an hour, you can expect about $1,500 a month just for this one server. And say we put all 5 of them here, that sort of just continues to compound up. So that's the plan for today. The next steps are going to be to take this host, so it's available at this IP address here, and what we're going to do is start to install the various different drivers and configurations that we need for Fast AI to work. And the way that I do this, because we have more than just a couple servers, obviously, is we build out Ansible playbooks that allow us to just sort of, one-shot the entire installation. And, if let's say a server needs to be updated or something like that, we can sort of maintain these separate playbooks depending on, what is the scenario that we're trying to do. And this is a really handy tool if, you need to manage a couple servers and you want to ensure that they're all in a consistent sort of state. That's exactly what Ansible is designed to do. So I think I probably have to rename the server in my inventory here, which is, we are 251. And sorry, so I think all we did was we changed the IP address on it. So you can see here, all I do in my inventory file is update the IP address on the server that I'm trying to deal with. And what we're going to do is run this 5090 installation playbook against it. The way you do that is pretty simple. It just goes, Ansible playbook. You want to specify your inventory. So in this case, it's our inventory file. We're going to limit the inventory just to the server we want to use. So it's just this pod 251 server here. And then we essentially just specify the playbook, and I actually think we're done. So I'll kick that off. Obviously, we won't sit here and watch it the entire time. But what this is going to do is I'll kind of quickly talk through how the playbook works. So the first step here is it's actually going to look for the empty drives and make the RAID 0 on the two empty disks that we have. And then once that RAID 0 is created, it's going to put an XFS file system on it and mount that at var/lib/docker. That's going to essentially give Docker the entire storage in that RAID 0. And then from there, there's just some other sort of light configuration things we need to do to then eventually install the NVIDIA drivers, the CUDA toolkit, and I think we actually put the container toolkit on here as well. And I think the final step is installing Docker. We'll do a reboot, and then once it comes back up, we put Vast AI on it. And so assuming this all doesn't fail, it should be done in maybe 10-15 minutes. So I'll check back in then. All right, well, welcome back. So the installation was successful. You can see here we print out the output of the install command, and you can see that it's it says done, go list your machine. We've written a port range, so I actually write pretty much all of the ports available, so it's like 64,000 ports or something like that. And what that looks like is a machine that's ready to go on fast.ai. So after you install your machine, this will pop up in your Machines tab. And from here, what you can do is actually list it so that people can find it. So I think the number we were going for before was 36 cents an hour. And this is something that you can kind of change over time. We're going to start nice and low, while we're going through the verification process, because the sooner we get someone on the system, the better, right? Like a week of revenue at 36 cents an hour, because we priced it that way, is way better than 0 cents an hour for a week while we're trying to get verified. So in terms of the interruptible price, so this is really, depends if you want people on your machine for low cost. I think it's a great thing. And we have the extra sort of power and cooling to handle something like this. But if you're going for just sort of like high rental rate, then it might be worthwhile to sort of avoid getting interruptible instances on there. In terms of internet, we've got a 10 gig connection, so we try not to charge too much for our bandwidth. I like to list the machine as 8 GPUs only. If you were to do something like this, you would allow 2 GPU, 4 GPU, and 8 GPU rentals. I like it to just have full occupancy, right? There's sort of a certain kind of customer that uses the entire machine, and it might take a little bit longer to get that customer on there, but you don't have the risk of somebody renting 4 of the GPUs, and then you just have 4 in inventory for the rest of time while you wait for another 4 GPU customer. So we do that. In terms of rental expiration, so you want to set this for, I typically go about a month out, and a month out from now would be ideal. But what you want to do with this is just make sure that you have opportunities to take the machine back or do maintenance on it. So if you set this to sometime in the middle of 2026 and the renter never leaves, you'll never have an opportunity to actually get that machine back and do what you might need to do to it. So I highly recommend just kind of go month to month. If you're a little less worried about it, go a couple months out, but it can cause issues if you need that machine back and you've got a guy on there who wants it for the rest of the year. The rest of this stuff, this is all kind of new, so I know they have you're able to rent out just storage volumes. I'll just leave whatever defaults they've put in there, and I think we should be good to go. I think this constant duration flag might actually also help with the rentals, where if they stop renting, then you do have the opportunity to take the machine back. So we'll set it all like this. Actually, because I don't understand this, I'm just going to let it be, but we'll list the machine there. So you can see we've got the machine here on Vast. It's listed at 36 cents an hour. And what I'll do actually is I'll rent it for myself to just kind of show you guys what that looks like. So if you're using the Vast CLI, you have the ability to look for your machine. And I just need to enable my virtual environment here. So yeah, when using the Vast CLI, the reason to use the Vast CLI over self-renting through the Vast GUI is, for some reason, anytime I try to spin up a container from the GUI, it ends up breaking it into individual rentals on all 8 of the GPUs. So whenever you're self-renting, I've just had a much better experience on the CLI, and I'm sure there's a good reason for that, but that's just typically how we've done it in the past. So I'm just going to quickly prepare the rental command here for this machine ID, and then I'll spin that up. Okay, so new day. When I went to self-rent the machine yesterday, I ended up running into an issue where the container wouldn't start because I think one of the GPUs was having a faulty connection with the motherboard. So we didn't end up losing the GPU, it never fell off the bus or anything. But there was something there that when I tried to start my burn container, the burn test didn't want to load into one of the GPUs. So ended up rebooting it yesterday and it came back, and since then I've done some testing and can't really figure out what's wrong with it. My best guess is that the risers that we're using don't have a reliable enough link back to the motherboard. And when we first got the risers, I wondered, just because of the form factor of them, if they'd be appropriate to use with GPUs. But we were also seeing some lower bandwidth coming from some of the links when we were doing the testing. So I hope it's not that. I've ordered new risers to do some tests on another system, but I've gotten this one to the point where it'll actually pass the tests and we can spin a container up. So I'll do that now. The first thing you want to do when you're putting a machine on Vast is use the self-test utility. So it's really simple. You just get the CLI working and put the machine ID in. And what that'll do is spin up a test container that burns the machine for a minute. I think they run a neural net of some kind just to make sure the GPUs are all behaving as expected. And you want to do this because Vast is only going to look at machines every so often. And if your machine isn't ready for validation and they look at it and it fails, this could delay the process of getting verified on Vast, weeks or months, even if you're sort of a smaller provider. So I'd highly recommend self-testing your own stuff. I'm doing that now, and I'll sort of skip to when that's finished. Okay, so I cleaned up the terminal and ran the test again. So you can see here it completed successfully. It's not the first time, obviously, I've done the test, so I'm feeling pretty confident that the machine is usable. But I think down the road we're gonna have to look into what was causing the GPUs to act up, and it's definitely possible that we'll experience some issues going forward. So that's done. Final thing I wanted to do was show you guys what renting a machine on Vast actually looks like. So this is just the base image if you're renting a machine on Vast. We'll spin this up, and then you'll see here, so it creates a contract, and this is just me self-renting. my own machine. And what that does is it creates an instance in my Vast portal here. So you can see here it's just on the creating stage. Shortly this will become available and we'll actually be able to connect to it and use the machine. So I don't know how long this is going to take, so what I'm going to do is I'll cut back once this is up and running. Cool. So this is what it looks like once the instance is created. Obviously there's a whole bunch of ways you connect to this. So I think Vast has like a built-in instance manager thing here. You can just SSH into it. But yeah, it'll be really up to the customers what they want to do, what they want to use the machine for. Like I said, the plan is I think we can get about $1,500 to $2,000 a month for this once it's up and running, fully rented. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I think we'll make a video about how it does long term, and ultimately there's 5 of these systems, so we're going to put them in a whole bunch of different places and see what does the best. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you later.